Imagine walking through Manhattan on a cold November afternoon. Golden lights slipping between the buildings, taxis humming, nothing out of the ordinary. And then you see them. A woman in a white lace gown, a man in a flawless black tuxedo, both moving through Tribeca like they've stepped straight out of a magazine spread. People slowed, turned their heads, raised their phones, because everyone assumed the same thing. Oh, they must be shooting something. But they weren't. Those strangers had no idea. The paparazzi had no clue. Even the fans scrolling on their phones didn't recognize what they were actually witnessing. They weren't modeling, they weren't posing, they weren't rehearsing. They were walking straight into the most private, carefully protected celebrity moment of the year, a moment hidden in plain sight. Up above them, 50 floors high, a crystal chandelier flickered to life. The penthouse windows glowed softly. And behind those glass walls, a story was unfolding that the world wouldn't understand until much, much later. Because on November 30th, what looked like a photo shoot was actually a breadcrumb. A clue. A hint at a secret that wasn't supposed to be noticed. And if you want more untold stories like this, the ones buried behind the headlines, make sure you're subscribed because this one only gets crazier from here. Because the real magic started with one thing. A cover story so perfect, it fooled everyone.
The truth is, this secret wedding didn't start with romance. It started with pressure. Because the moment whispers of an engagement began floating around last summer, their world changed. Suddenly, every magazine, every PR team, every fan page wanted the same thing. A massive, televised, celebrity-sized wedding. But that's the exact moment Taylor and Travis realized something quietly terrifying. A public wedding wouldn't feel like their day. It would feel like a performance. So instead of planning a glamorous ceremony, they planned an illusion. It began with a single statement from Taylor's team. Soft, subtle, perfectly worded. She's working on a creative editorial project in New York. No mention of a ceremony, no mention of anything personal. Just enough to spark industry interest without triggering suspicion. Then came the magazine outreach. Fashion editors were contacted, mood boards were sent, locations were scouted. The streets of Tribeca were chosen because they looked cinematic, and because thousands of photo shoots had already happened there. Nothing suspicious, nothing unusual. It was the perfect camouflage. Meanwhile, behind the curtain, only a tiny inner circle knew the truth. PR managers thought they were coordinating a shoot schedule. Assistants believed they were booking glam teams for an editorial spread. Even the penthouse owner thought they were renting the space for pictures, not a wedding. Every detail of the day was disguised as content creation. Wedding dress? Just wardrobe for the shoot. Tuxedo? Editorial styling. Bouquet? Props. Security walking them through the building? Standard shoot protocol. Everything, absolutely everything, was wrapped in the illusion of a fashion project. And the wildest part? Nobody questioned it. Not the people on the street, not the photographers who caught glimpses from afar, not the staff who unlocked doors and delivered supplies. Because when celebrities say editorial shoot, the world believes them. But no plan is perfect. And for all the secrecy, for all the flawless coordination, there was one moment, one unexpected slip that almost shattered the illusion entirely. And it happened in the middle of the street.
For a plan this delicate, all it took was one wrong glance, one curious stranger, one camera pointed at the wrong moment. And that moment almost happened. It started the second they stepped out of the building. Taylor's dress brushed lightly against the concrete. Travis adjusted his cufflinks, both moving like models headed to a set. But one woman across the street froze. Not a paparazzi, not a superfan, just an ordinary New Yorker with sharp instincts. She narrowed her eyes the way someone does when something feels off. The dress wasn't just stylish, it was too detailed, too real, too crafted to be just wardrobe. And Travis, he wasn't acting like a man doing a fashion shoot. He looked nervous, focused, like he was trying not to mess up the most important moment of his life. The woman stepped closer, lifting her phone, and that's when the tension snapped. Before she could move another inch, a delivery truck rolled right between them, blocking her view for just 3 seconds. 3 seconds that saved the entire wedding. Because by the time the truck passed, Taylor and Travis had already been ushered by security into the waiting car, disappearing into the traffic flow like it was all part of the script. But that wasn't the only risk. Inside the penthouse, a different kind of danger was happening. A staff member, someone hired for the day, walked into the main room, stopped, and stared at the setup. Chairs arranged in a semicircle, a small speaker system, a bouquet too elegant to be just a prop, and an officiant quietly reviewing notes. The staff member blinked, then whispered under their breath, "This doesn't look like a photo shoot." For a heartbeat, the whole plan shook. But Taylor's team had prepared for this too. Within seconds, someone stepped forward with a perfect explanation. It's part of the concept. We're going for a cinematic, ceremony-style editorial. And just like that, the suspicion dissolved. But the truth lingered in the room like a quiet pulse. One more slip, one more curious glance, one more wrong question, and the world would have discovered the entire secret. Which is why they needed to tighten the circle, bring in only the people who mattered, people who would understand exactly why this day had to stay hidden. Because the real heart of this story didn't happen on the street. It happened behind closed doors.
Behind the heavy penthouse doors, the world felt different, quieter, softer, like the noise of Manhattan couldn't reach them up here. This was the safe zone, the only place where the truth was allowed to breathe. And one by one, the inner circle arrived. Not the stylists, not the assistants, not the producers who thought they were here for a fashion spread, but the people who carried pieces of their hearts. Taylor's mom, Andrea, was the first to walk in. She pressed her hand against her daughter's cheek with a trembling smile. The smile of a mother who had waited years to see this moment without flashbulbs in her eyes. Her father, Scott, stood by the window, watching the skyline like he was guarding the entire city, as if one wrong shadow outside might expose everything. Her brother, Austin, was double-checking every small detail, making sure the music playlist worked, making sure the officiant had everything he needed, making sure no one else entered the room by accident. On the other side of the penthouse, the Kelce family gathered with the same mix of nerves and joy. Donna fussed over Travis's bow tie, even though it was already perfect. Jason paced the room like he was preparing for a playoff game. Except this time, the stakes were emotional, not physical. And their father, Ed, kept whispering the same thing under his breath. Keep it small. Keep it real. Keep it ours. There was no glam squad, no lighting crew, no choreographed chaos like a typical celebrity event. just family. Just a handful of people holding onto a secret big enough to shake the internet if it leaked. And the atmosphere reflected that intimacy. Soft music, muted lighting, a table set with champagne that no one touched yet because their hands were too unsteady. Quiet conversations that carried more emotion than words. Every few minutes, someone would glance at the door, half expecting a photographer to burst in, half expecting this fragile, perfect bubble to pop. But it didn't. Instead, something else happened. As more family members settled in, as laughter mixed with nerves, as they realized the world still believed this was just a shoot, a calm settled over the room. The kind of calm that says, yes, we pulled it off. It's happening. And in that moment, the inner circle became something more than witnesses. They became guardians. Guardians of a ceremony that wasn't meant for fans, or tabloids, or magazines, just for the two people standing at the center of it all. But while the families were exhaling in relief, a new kind of pressure was about to begin. Because the next step wasn't about planning, or hiding, or pretending. It was about taking the first walk toward a moment that would change both their lives.
There are moments in life when everything slows down, when the air feels thicker, and you suddenly become aware of every detail around you. That's what happened the second Taylor stepped toward the hallway. The noise of the city faded. The whispers in the penthouse softened. And for the first time all day, she looked like a bride, not a celebrity. Her dress, the same one people on the street thought was just wardrobe, moved like living lace. Hand-stitched patterns caught the afternoon light, glowing faintly as she walked. Her bouquet carried its own quiet language. White lilies for new beginnings, red roses for passion, eucalyptus for protection. It wasn't a prop. It was a message. Andrea reached for her daughter's arm with a tenderness only a mother understands. She didn't say a word at first. She didn't need to. The way her fingers tightened around Taylor's hand said everything. You're ready. I'm proud. Go. And across the room, Travis looked up. He'd been steady all morning, smiling, focused, almost calm. But that calm shattered the moment he saw her. His shoulders dropped, his breath caught, his eyes filled instantly. The kind of emotion you don't fake if you tried. He didn't look at the dress, he didn't look at the room, he looked at her, like she was walking toward the rest of his life. Jason nudged him gently, whispering, "Bro, breathe." But Travis didn't even hear it, because in that instant, every rumor, every headline, every camera flash they'd ever experienced melted away. There was just this hallway, this walk, this moment. Taylor's steps felt both endless and impossibly fast. She held her mother's arm, then her bouquet, then her breath, as if she wasn't sure which emotion would hit her first. The closer she got to him, the more everyone around them rose to their feet, not out of formality, but because something sacred was happening. When she finally reached him, he whispered, so softly only she could hear, "You look like a miracle." And she answered, "You feel like home." Their hands met. Her nerves vanished. His tension dissolved. It wasn't a photo shoot anymore. It wasn't a cover story. It wasn't a secret mission. It was real. But the moment the officiant stepped forward, everything changed again. Because now, the words that would bind them together were about to be spoken. Words no one outside that room would hear. Not yet. The room fell silent. Not the kind of silence you get when people are waiting, but the kind that happens when everyone knows they're witnessing something life-changing. The officiant stepped forward, his voice low and steady, but even he couldn't hide the emotion in his eyes. He'd been trusted with something priceless, a ceremony the world would only hear rumors about. He began with simple words, No grand metaphors, no dramatic lines, just the truth. Love isn't a performance. It's a daily choice. And that's when Travis reached for Taylor's hands, his thumbs brushing gently over her fingers, as if memorizing the moment. He spoke first. His voice wasn't perfectly smooth. It shook. It cracked. And maybe that's why every person in the room leaned in a little closer. "Before I met you," he said, "I didn't understand how love could feel calm and exciting at the same time." Taylor blinked fast, fighting tears already. "I thought I knew what commitment meant, but you taught me that commitment isn't just big gestures. It's choosing the same person every ordinary day." He paused, breathing in like he was grounding himself. "I promise to make room for your dreams," he said softly, "to celebrate the highs and stand with you in the lows. I promise to be honest even when it's difficult, and gentle even when life isn't." His voice grew steadier. "I promise to love the real you, not the headlines, not the expectations, not the version the world tries to write." A tear fell down Taylor's cheek. Jason looked away, pretending to fix his shirt so no one would see his eyes well up. And most of all, Travis whispered, "I choose you. Every morning, every night, for the rest of my life." The room exhaled, a soft wave of emotion nobody tried to hide. Then it was Taylor's turn. She held his hands tighter, as if grounding herself in him. "Before you," she began in a clear, trembling voice, "I lived a life built on stories and performances. And for the first time, I don't want a perfect story. I want a real life." Travis shut his eyes for a moment, absorbing every word. "You've shown me a kind of love that doesn't demand perfection. One that lets me be messy, complicated, soft, scared, and still worthy." Her voice warmed, growing stronger. "I promise to trust you, even when my past makes trust feel difficult. I promise to make space for us, even when my world gets loud. I promise to protect what we're building, quietly, fiercely, and without apology." A tear slipped down her face, and she didn't bother to wipe it away. "And I choose you," she finished. "Not as a performance, not as a headline, but as my partner in every chapter we haven't written yet." Silence. Deep, heavy, sacred. No cameras snapped, no crowd cheered, no hashtags erupted online. This moment belonged entirely to them. But the ceremony wasn't finished, because now came the gesture that carried centuries of meaning, the one symbol that would make their promises visible: the rings.
The vows left the room trembling, not with noise, but with the kind of stillness that follows something sacred. And then the officiant nodded gently, signaling the next step. The rings. Travis reached for the small velvet box first. His hands, normally steady, confident, athlete strong, shook just enough to reveal the truth. This moment meant everything to him. Inside was a band chosen with intention, not aesthetics. A design that paired perfectly with her engagement ring, but simple enough to feel timeless. He held it between his fingers for a second, drawing in a breath like he wanted to slow time down. Taylor extended her hand, and he slid the ring onto her finger. Not rushed, not shaky, just slow, careful, deliberate, like he was threading his future into place. Then Taylor picked up the second ring, a classic gold band with clean lines. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic. It looked exactly like him. Straightforward, genuine, grounded. "Ready?" she whispered. He smiled. "Always." And she placed the ring onto his hand, pressing her thumb gently over it the moment it reached his skin. A quiet tradition between them, one nobody else knew about. This tiny thumb press of reassurance every time they held hands. A silent way of saying, "I'm here. I'm choosing you. I'm not going anywhere." The officiant's voice warmed as he spoke the final words. "By the power given to me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Every emotion in the room collided in that split second. Joy, relief, disbelief, gratitude. "Travis," the officiant added with a smile, "you may kiss your bride." And he didn't hesitate. He leaned in, cupping her face with both hands, and kissed her with a tenderness that made everyone watching wipe their eyes, look away, or smile so softly it almost hurt. It wasn't a celebrity kiss, not a performance, not something crafted for cameras that weren't even there. It was private, raw, real. A kiss that held every promise their vows didn't have time to say. Cheers erupted around them. Quiet, heartfelt, imperfect cheers from people who had held this secret like a shared heartbeat. Jason clapped so hard the speaker shook. Their mothers were tangled in tears and laughter. Austin raised his glass in the air and whispered, "They did it. They actually did it." And just like that, the ceremony ended. Not with confetti, not with drones, not with a million flashing lights, but with a room full of people who loved them finally letting themselves breathe. Yet this was only the beginning of the celebration, because now, with the tension gone and the nerves settling and the truth finally spoken, the night could finally come alive.
The ceremony ended, but the secret wasn't over. In fact, what happened next would become the most important decision of the entire day. Because after the tears, after the vows, after the kiss that sealed everything, Taylor suddenly laughed. A soft, breathy laugh that only comes after surviving hours of tension. She looked around the room, at the chandelier glowing above them, at the petals scattered on the floor, at the people wiping their eyes, still smiling like they couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed. Then she turned to Travis and whispered, "Come with me." She took his hand and pulled him toward the ornate mirror at the edge of the room. The same mirror she had stood in front of hours earlier, while pretending her gown was just for a shoot. Now it held their reflection as husband and wife. No audience, no stylist hovering, no photoshoot team directing their angles. Just them. Taylor lifted her phone slowly, almost ceremonially. "Ready?" she asked. Travis grinned, leaning closer. "Always ready for you." The camera clicked. Just one photo. A simple mirror selfie. No filters, no lighting tricks, no staged poses. But the meaning behind it? Massive. This wasn't behind-the-scenes content, or a teaser for fans, or a glossy magazine shot. It was their first picture as a married couple, a photo nobody else in the world was supposed to see. Travis looked at the image on her screen, his thumb brushing over the glass like he was touching the moment itself. "So," he asked with a raised eyebrow, "should we post it?" Taylor didn't even blink. Her smile turned mischievous, almost wicked. "Not yet." He laughed under his breath. "Keeping it all to ourselves? For now. For just a little longer. Let the world think we were shooting an editorial. Let them guess. Let them wonder." She slipped the phone into her hand, like she was locking away a treasure, because this was hers, his, theirs.
The magic wasn't just in the wedding, it was in the privacy, in protecting something sacred, in an industry where everything gets monetized, analyzed, and torn apart by strangers. And as the families began drifting into the dining room for the evening celebration, Taylor and Travis exchanged a look, a silent agreement that tonight belonged to them alone. But outside, the city kept moving. Taxi lights flickered. People passed by the building with no idea what had unfolded inside. No leaks, no rumors, no suspicious posts online. The perfect secret. At least until now, because as the night deepened, and as they prepared to sit down for their private dinner, everyone inside that penthouse knew one thing. The aftermath of this secret would be just as powerful as the ceremony itself.
The noise of celebration slowly softened as the evening slipped into something calmer, deeper, almost dreamlike. Dinner was served in the glow of low lights, simple dishes, comforting flavors, nothing flashy or extravagant, just family, just warmth, just the people who understood why this night mattered. Donna pulled Taylor into a gentle hug near the dining table. No cameras, no stage, just a mother welcoming someone into her heart. Andrea quietly took Travis aside, her voice soft, her eyes full. She whispered, "Take care of her." He promised, "With everything I am." And for the first time all day, the weight of secrecy lifted just enough for everyone to relax, laugh, breathe again. One final toast came from Scott Swift, a simple, steady-voiced moment that brought the entire room to silence. "To choosing love over noise," he said. "To choosing each other instead of the world." Glasses clinked softly, tears shimmered. Private joy lingered in the air like a warm mist. By 8:30 p.m., families began drifting toward the elevators, one tight hug at a time, one whispered goodbye, one shared promise to keep the secret safe. The door closed behind the last guest, and suddenly the penthouse felt different, quiet, secret, the kind of quiet that only exists after something unforgettable. Taylor slipped off her heels, Travis loosened his bow tie. Both stepped onto the terrace with 2 glasses of champagne and the entire Manhattan skyline stretching out before them. The city sparkled below, unaware. People walked dogs, cabs honked in the distance. Life moved on with no idea what had happened 50 floors above. Travis pulled her close. "How does it feel?" he asked softly. "To be Mrs. Kelce?" Taylor leaned into him, smiling without hesitation. "It feels like home." He kissed her forehead. "And being married to you feels like the world's luckiest man got even luckier." They stood there, just 2 silhouettes against a glowing skyline, holding on to the quietest, most perfect moment of their lives. No headlines, no breaking news, no public announcement, just a secret wedding saved for their hearts and their hearts alone. But one day, the world will see the photos, the clips, the hints they didn't catch. And when that day comes, the internet will explode trying to piece together what truly happened on November 30th. Until then, it remains their beautifully protected truth. And if you want to be the first to unravel stories like this, make sure you're subscribed, because there are more hidden celebrity moments, more secrets in plain sight, and more untold stories coming. This was just one night, one secret, one love story written when no one was watching. And sometimes, the moments the world doesn't see are the ones that matter most.